Hello, everybody. It's Sophia Mona Lisa of the Roseville Mystery School and the Golden Ray Center. And I'm really happy to be here today to share the next discourse from the collection of discourses that was published by Peter Mount Shasta, the I Am the Open Door Ascended Master Discourses, just to show you. I know I've got this on a slide, but this is the next discourse that we're going to be doing. Honestly, I can't recall if I shared in the past how these discourses came about, but the Ascended Masters actually came in visitation to Peter Mount Shasta and gave these discourses to him as he transcribed them while in their presence. So these are not channeled messages, and they are very, very high frequency messages because encoded in the language of these discourses as I speak them, encoded within the book as you read it, are the high frequencies of the Ascended Masters, also known as Christed beings. So what's interesting is through the work that I've been doing with this image, many people call it the I Am presence. You've seen this now in several of my video journals. I've changed the title of this slide to your Christ self or your divine self. I've added a piece here and I've tweaked the different parts. And my clarity that I'm sharing in these updates of this slide has really come through working with this image, working with the Ascended Master, Council of Light, through the discourses, through the use of the I am statements. And so as I receive more and more clarity, I will continue to update this. You may receive clarity around these pieces that I haven't, or even I won't, because we are all a unique part of this image. And of course, this top part represents my divine self. So that's why I receive insight and clarity. And for you, it represents your divine self, which is why you may receive insight and clarity that I don't. I mean, you know, if you think about the majesty of the creative source on this planet, I don't even know how many kinds of species of flowers, let's just say tens of thousands. And you take one species, the orchid. Now, how many differentiations of the orchid? Thousands. And so, you know, we're speaking about a cosmic, infinite intelligence that is really unfathomable. We receive glimpses through grace. We receive glimpses. And so, you know, if you receive a glimpse that I haven't received, I invite you to put a comment in the comment sections below the video journal and share your insights with us, because this is certainly not what I'm sharing is not the be all end all definitive description of what this I am picture represents. It's a taste. It's a taste from my experience and from my unique perspective. So because there are significant changes here, I am going to take the time now to go through it. And I feel like it's important to keep coming back to this slide because as we are working with the Ascended Master Council of Light, and as we are working with the Ascended Master Discourses, hearing what they are sharing with us in context to what this image represents takes us into a whole deeper embodiment and understanding of what they are sharing. So let's start up here, and I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see what I've got here. I'm going to start here with this little white head on top of this little body here. All right. So as I mentioned, this represents your individual emanation, my individual emanation of light. And that emanation of light is coming from the heart of Source. Some people call it the heart of God. I call Source Sophia-Christ. And that heart, just like we have a Christ heart in our crystalline body, which we'll get to in a moment, and a heart chakra in our physical body, that heart of Source, that heart of God, Goddess, is what's referred to as the great central sun. The great central sun is the heart chakra of Sophia-Christ, of Source. We also, as I said, because I've relabeled this, could identify that as your Christ self. That's your Christed self, okay? It is your ascended master self. It is your light body. So we go from carbon-based to crystalline-based to light, okay? Now, this part of ourself, our divine self, our Christ self, is known by many names, as I had titled this slide in the past, because that's what the name of this image is. It's known as the mighty I Am Presence. It's also known as your soul or your higher self. These terms seem to get used interchangeably, and in different spiritual practices or lineages, you may have heard also this talked about as Atma. And of course, Paramatma is Source. You may have heard it spoken to as the monad. Okay, so different names for this piece. Now, the piece that I've added in, which I haven't spoken to before, are all of these beautiful, colorful rings that are emanating from your light body. And so they really represent two kinds of things. One, your unique divine attributes, which is why you are so different from me. I mean, even if you look at the Hindu pantheon, for instances of all of the goddesses, the only reason there are goddesses is not because there is more than one goddess. It is the one goddess, sacred feminine, Sophia, that's being represented through these other goddesses, different aspects of her, different aspects of the one sacred feminine goddess, great mother of all creation. Her aspects are embodied in these different goddesses represented in the Hindu pantheon. And I go to that because that's my background. That's what I am resonant with, but I am aware that that is true also in other cultures, that the different goddesses in other cultures are also representing different aspects of the sacred feminine. And so your divine attributes are not necessarily going to be my divine attributes, and probably aren't, because that's what makes each of us unique as a child of Source, God, Goddess. Now, these colored rings also represent the merit that you have acquired in your self-mastery practices from one lifetime to the next, from one incarnation to the next. And what's beautiful about this is, I'm going to be totally transparent here. I had such a difficult childhood that when I started really diving into different spiritual belief systems, and all of the major world religions on this planet, I have studied and dived into. I was really convinced that I must have been a horrific person, because if there's this thing called karma, and that's a whole other discussion, because everybody has their own idea of what karma means, that wow, in order for me to be having these kinds of experiences, I must have been a horrible person. Of course, now I know differently, and I understand what the purpose of having those experiences that I chose was. And nevertheless, it never occurred to me that through all of my lifetimes, I had acquired merit, which honestly, from my perspective, that's what I refer to as grace. That's how I connect to it. But this idea of merit for the self-mastery, the spiritual practices that you've done, you've attained that merit. And it's represented in these colorful rings, and you don't lose it. And it's kind of like, you graduate from high school and you go on and you get your bachelor's degree. Well, you haven't lost everything that you learned in those first 12 years of academic experience. You've got your diploma, you still have it. So that's kind of how I relate to it. And as I said, I definitely relate to that merit as a kind of grace that comes in for us. Now, the next piece here is this middle piece, what I call the crystalline body. We've been talking about it in my Venus gatherings for the Galactic New Earth project related to the Leo goddess, divine royalty goddess journey, as the crystalline body, and that it is where our higher octave chakras are located. We know that we have a heart chakra here in our physical body. I've always called that the compassionate heart. And when I started getting tapped into the crystalline body, which happened, by the way, for me at an activation during the Capricorn goddess journey, when we were at the resurrection seed point of the Inanna underworld. Interesting time-wise, today is, what is today? I've lost track of the calendar. June 8th, Saturday, June 8th. 4 days ago was the resurrection seed point of the Leo goddess Inanna underworld journey. So back at the Capricorn Inanna underworld journey, when we had the resurrection seed point and we were activating the third strand of DNA. I mean, we were really babies back then. Can you imagine activating the third strand of DNA? And now here we've just activated the 22nd strand of DNA. Anyhow, that's when I got tapped in. And then I started calling the compassionate heart the Christ heart, because I started working at this higher frequency. So I definitely want to clarify how my journey has unfolded through that, and why you may be hearing me speak to some things with different language that you may have some confusion. Oh, I thought she was calling it this, but it's actually a higher frequency that we're working with now. With your crystalline body, you also have your higher mind. And so, it's the higher mind is known as the Buddhi. It's also, Sophia Christ consciousness. Some people just identify it as Christ consciousness. That's fine. We know that Sophia and Christ are in perpetual sacred union. So when you speak of Sophia, you're automatically speaking of Christ. And when you speak of Christ, you're automatically also speaking of Sophia. But I do like to identify it as it is, Sophia Christ, acknowledging the union of the feminine and the masculine. And then we have this lower body here. This is our physical body. I call it the sacred temple. And this is where our lower octave chakras are, the basic chakra system that people who are stepping onto the spiritual path first become introduced to. And you will come to know that right near your heart chakra, this golden ray of light that is descending from your divine self, from your Christ self, is anchoring this golden ray of light right near your compassionate heart space. And that is your divine flame, your divine spark. Sophia asked me to start speaking to it as a divine sun. But these, again, are different expressions for the same thing: the divine spark, the divine flame, the divine sun. And so you can see, as we kind of graduate through that terminology, we are expanding and expanding and expanding the divine. We're not expanding the divine light, we're expanding our understanding, our realization of the embodiment of our divine light. Some people to call it your divine presence. I have a tendency to call it your inner Sophia Christ. So those are the updates with this slide. You can always come back to this slide, and I will continue to include this slide. And when I make, or if I make any tweaks to it in the future, just like today, I will remind you. So that's a huge foundational piece for the work that we are doing with the Ascended Master discourses, and for you to have in your awareness as you're receiving the frequencies of the discourses that I will be sharing, of the discourse that I will be sharing with you today. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the little book, the little pamphlet. I encourage you to get a copy from yourself, for yourself. And as I mentioned, this was put together by Peter Mount Shasta. He does not take credit for writing it, as he says he was essentially the scribe, that the Ascended Master showed up physically in his presence and dictated these discourses. So that's why he has not put his name on the cover of the book. All right, so this is really super crazy. I've been doing this thing where I just like flip open, okay, which discourse wants to be read now? And the first one that came up was Discourse 11. And I think I told you before, how many discourses are there? There's 14 discourses. So the first one that came up was Discourse 11. Well, then the next one that came up was Discourse 10. And I thought, ooh, isn't that interesting? And now Discourse 9. So I'm not really sure what's going on with how they're showing up, but I feel like that the content and the message is absolutely aligned with what I'm currently experiencing in my life. And, if you're recognizing that too, I'd love to hear from you. Now, I haven't talked about this in the other two video journals that I did, but I'm going to start talking about it now because we're getting ready to begin the ascent journey of the Leo Goddess synodic cycle. That will be initiated in August. And on that ascent journey, I'm going to start bringing in teachings around the rays, the 7 rays. And there are ascended masters that work with each of these rays that we'll become more and more familiar with. Now, this Discourse 9 that I'm going to read to you is being given by Ascended Master Hilarion. That's him here. I love this image, whoever created it, of the 6-pointed star representing the union of Sophia and Christ at the Christ heart. I love that image. And Ascended Master Hilarion works on the 5th ray, which is known as the Emerald Ray. Saint Germain, who is on the cover of this book, he works on the 7th ray, which is the Violet Ray, which is why, of course, all of the teachings around Violet Tara and the Violet Fire are coming forward from Saint Germain. He works on the Violet Ray. All right, that's just an aside. So I think that I'm ready to begin reading this discourse to you. I hope you enjoy it. As in the past, I am going to turn off my camera so that all you can hear is my voice, and your mind, your active listening can tune in and focus on the message and not be distracted by me. Okay, so here we go. One day, one of the students who I was and still is under my guidance and instruction asked a question of the one to whom I had brought him for instruction at the time. And the question asked that day, in all seriousness, was, what does the body of God look like? Well, I may tell you, I hope without offending anyone's sense of propriety, that we too have a sense of humor, and that I had a good laugh over this. And both the individuals involved had a laugh too, for you might say my laughter is contagious. The truth of the matter is really so simple. It is staring you right in the face every moment of your existence. It is astounding to us that this elementary truth should still, in this day, when man's scientific advancement has gone so far, remains unknown. Well, of course, we were really delighted by this question. In fact, we wish you would ask questions of us much more often, as long as you are sincere, for it is only by asking questions as a child asks that true understanding is open to you. No matter how humble the question, when you ask as a child, we do not hesitate to answer you or see that the answer is forthcoming to you in some way which you can directly perceive. And I may say, according to the degree of sincerity, the degree of your true desire for knowledge is the degree to which you are answered. For every call, every question in the mind of man is a magnet, and that magnet inexorably attracts in the perfect time the answer to it. And even those who do not know this great law, how to make the call directly to their own Godhead, who pray in their own way, are also answered according to the degree of their sincerity. For every thought at every point in the universe no matter how remote, is heard and responded to. Though, of course, not as directly as if the individual had made the call directly to his own God self. So you see how important it is to know what you want and how important to say only what you mean and not to say or even think anything, whether about yourself or another, that you do not mean or wish to happen. For thoughts are things. They go forth into the universe to act according to the thought and feeling of the one, whether consciously or unconsciously, that is sending them out. You see, the universe is a great switchboard, and each of you is an operator. Those who pray are requesting that another operator, some unknown quote unquote God, put the call through for them, while the one who knows and is in contact with his own God flame, which is the central switchboard, can put the call through himself. And he becomes one of the helpers that can, if he be sincere in his desire to serve, answer and put through the calls of others. You see, the universe is a great hierarchy. Just as on Earth, you have countries, states, counties, districts, and neighborhoods, all administered and represented by their corresponding governments, assemblies, commissions, councils, and associations, so too, on all levels of God's creation, are there similar governing bodies for the control and distribution of infinite supply. Infinite supply as the limitless light, which is everywhere and which is made manifest as needed and called forth at the corresponding frequency and intensity to the place in creation at which the individual finds himself in his current state of evolution. The keynote of all creation is order, and that order is maintained by the divine hierarchy, of which we, the ascended or quote unquote arisen masters, are for the earth the principal part. Some of whose know also that there are cosmic masters, some of whose bodies span solar systems. As well are there angels, seraphim, and tiny elementals that may work within the smallest atom. Life is everywhere. There is nowhere life is not. And that life is light, intelligence, wisdom, power, and love, which is perfect order. And so, as you come to understand the great laws of order, you come to understand how everything is put together and how everything operates. And you come to understand yourself. You come to understand this great self that you are, and come to understand all things. Man, know thyself. Are you beginning to understand now, my dear ones, what the body of God is? I hope so. Just think about it. Think about the great central flame within the center of your being. Dwell upon it and allow it to expand until you are in the middle of it. And it is all about you and in you. See what a son you have become, what a son you are. And this is the pattern for all creation. Understand the laws governing your own light, and you will understand the laws governing all light. As you become a son, for each of you is becoming a son, so in like manner did the son of this system become a son, as has every electron. For the consciousness, the law, the intelligent electronic substance of the great central sun composes, animates, and causes to continue in its orderly operation and joyful existence all creation. Of all beings, only in the man of mind is there any consciousness of lack, of any want of order. Is that not amazing that in the life of one of his greatest creations, God should allow disorder, lack, suffering, and despair to exist? Oh, dear hearts, when will you see that these things do not exist except in the mind? The 5 sense material world of which the human mind is composed. For the mind in the human sense is matter, material, and of the materialistic consciousness of lack, which thinks me and mind, and identifies with and attaches itself to conditions of the material world. Hence, the world of illusion, the world of suffering and pain. For if you knew that you are not that mind, but the divine mind, which is the heart of God, that the very light and consciousness of the Creator was within you, then you would be free of the consciousness of lack. Then you would be free of all illusion, holy, pure, and perfect. You would be one with bliss, for light everywhere is bliss and wisdom. He who understands and becomes this in every part of his being, he is free, a conscious creator, a God being. Know ye not that ye are gods? So our anatomy lesson draws to a close, though the lesson of which we are all a part never draws to a close. Think on these things, this little seed that I have given to you today. If you put the seed away for safekeeping, for a rainy day, you will lose it. At best, it will stay only a seed. But if you plant the seed immediately, in other words, if you take this great law into the depth of your being and there meditate on it, nourish it by your light and love, and give it the freedom that it needs in order to grow, then you will have something. And what a something! This is the grain of mustard seed, which appears the littlest of seeds, yet which Jesus likened unto the kingdom of heaven. This is the idea in the heart of man, the image of what he may become, a God, and the feeling of that reality, of that idea within your heart is the pearl of great price, the pearl for which a wise man parted with all he possessed in order to obtain. Bless you, my children. I thank you. So there you go, beloveds. That is Discourse 9 from Master Hilarion. It's a fabulous discourse. It was briefer than the other two, and it still packs a punch. That's great. So thank you for staying with me. Please give this journal a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, so you will be able, when you ring the bell, to be notified of when the next of my content is coming out. I have a complete playlist for these dedicated to these discourses on my YouTube channel. So please do subscribe. I have about a dozen playlists now. The next discourse I will be doing in about, I don't know, 3 to 4 weeks. So keep your eyes open for when that gets posted up here. And I will put a link to the last discourse, which was Discourse 10. For your ease, if you haven't already seen it, you can go right into it and watch that one as well. So until the next time, from my heart to yours, I just want to say, may the peace of the cosmic Christ enfold you and carry you forth on wings of light until you have reached eternal perfection. Thank you. Sending you all my love, heart to heart. Bye-bye.